All right, good afternoon, folks. Thank you for joining. My name is Rohan Jain. I'm a meteorologist here at the National Weather Service Newport Morehead City office. And this is the webinar number 2, briefing number 7, which you'll get in your inboxes shortly, about the coastal storm that'll be impacting eastern North Carolina this weekend and even going into Monday. So just some key messages right off the bat. We know there's a strong coastal storm impacting the region, bringing the potential for moderate to locally major coastal flooding and some stronger winds along the coast. And the elevated tides through Monday, the king tides occurring right now, will exacerbate coastal flooding impacts throughout this entire period. We have hazardous marine conditions, gale force winds, and really high seas through the weekends, and heavy rain and areas of flash flooding are possible with the best chances along the coast. A flood watch is in effect for the Outer Banks and down East Carteret County at this time. And the potential does exist for higher impacts than currently predicted if the coastal storm does trend stronger. So just what has changed, those of you that have joined the webinar yesterday, some things have changed since then. The coastal flood watch we had for Hatteras Island and Ocracoke has been upgraded to coastal flood warning Saturday afternoon to Monday morning. As we've gotten closer to that time period, confidence has increased. We've gone ahead with the warning there. We have a high surf advisory that's been issued from Duck to Cape Lookout. That means we're expecting breaking waves of 8 feet or greater. And then we have gale warnings issued for portions of coastal waters. And then a flood watch, as I mentioned, in effect for parts of the Outer Banks and down East Carteret County. And then another small change here, our forecast peak wind gusts have decreased by 5 to 10 miles an hour along the coast. And I'll talk more about that in a bit. Some threat levels, timings for the duration of the event. Winds tend to peak for Saturday and Sunday. Outer Banks, Oceanside coastal flooding, Saturday through Monday. Soundside coastal flooding, late Saturday into Sunday and Sunday nights. And then our heavy rain coastal flooding, our heavy rain and flash flooding concerns really peak Saturday late in the day going into Sunday. And then our marine impacts really are throughout the period as those high seas and strong waves will linger. So just some max wind gusts from our latest forecast here. As I mentioned, they did trend down a little bit along our coastal zones, but we're still expecting 30 to 45 mile an hour gusts this weekend. There is potential for 45 to 50 plus along the Outer Banks, especially in some of showers that bring some stronger wind gusts with it, but we're expecting about 30 to 45 with the potential for 45 to 50 plus. And the wind direction, initially it'll be east to northeast through Saturday, but then as that low treks north, it'll become more north to northwest Sunday. So that makes it a bit more complicated for coastal flooding concerns within the Pamlico Sound area with those changing winds, and I'll talk about that briefly here. Your maximum wave heights for the weekend haven't changed much, about 10 to 15 near shore and then 15 to 20 offshore, outside of Crystal Coast area where it's a bit more sheltered and the waves are a bit lower. So going into coastal flooding, definitely one of the more impactful parts of this weekend. Strong north to northeast winds through Saturday afternoon through tomorrow afternoon will bring some minor to locally moderate coastal flooding concerns, highlighted in yellow here, the regions. The king tide cycles do continue, which elevates our potential during periods of high tide. And then ocean overwash impacts are ongoing across portions of Highway 12 in Hatteras and Ocracoke Island. Saturday night through Monday, that's when conditions are expected to worsen. Winds will shift to the north and northwest. We have an increased risk of soundside flooding with the north and northwest winds for Hatteras Island and Ocracoke. Some of our highest tides are also expected Sunday into Monday. And as far as impacts go, road closures and flooding of vehicles will be possible, mainly along the vulnerable areas of Highway 12. Looking a bit further south, Crystal Coast and southern Pamlico Sound here, we are expecting minor coastal flooding through Saturday afternoon, up to 2 feet. And then as we get into Saturday night into Monday, about the same 1 to 2 feet for most spots, but then, as I mentioned earlier, Hatteras Island, Ocracoke a bit more elevated at 2 to 4 feet. Total rainfall hasn't changed too much from the last update. We're still expecting most of the rain to be along the coast. A bit better details as to like where the areas highest at risk are, and that's why we've gone ahead and issued a flood watch as of last night for earlier this morning for down East Carteret County, Ocracoke, Hatteras Island, and then the northern Outer Banks. That goes into effect tonight and it continues until Sunday morning, 8 a.m. The rain will end up progressing from south to north. So it'll reach the Crystal Coast first and then slowly progress north from there. And as you can see in the graphic, 3 to 6 inches of rain, potential for higher where bands of rainfall do linger. As you go west, the rainfall does decrease and there'll be a pretty tight gradient of high rainfall totals versus low rainfall totals. So there is a bit of uncertainty still as to where that gradient is going to be, where that drop off in rain totals is going to be. But certainly our greatest concerns for any flash flooding would be more so along the coast. We have been in a drought recently, so that will help limit our flash flooding potential, but with 3 to 6 inches or maybe even locally higher, that's something to certainly keep in mind of. And with that, our next webinar will be 9 a.m. Saturday. Our next briefing will be sent out tomorrow morning as well, I believe by 8 a.m. And I will take any questions you have. Just feel free to raise your hand. You can also put a message in the chat if you would like.